فلذلك فادع واستقم كما أمرت ولا تتبع أهواءهم وقل آمنت بما أنزل الله من كتاب.
الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا mohamed وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So today we'll get started with our class where we left off, and this will probably be the last class in the section that we're at, and in Durrat al-bayan في usool al-imaan by Dr. Mohamed yousri. And we're in the section that is talking about where we get our information about the deen and holding on to the Quran and Sunnah. And so this is a very, of course, a key concept, and we talked about in the last class how sometimes people will have differences of opinion in certain matters, and how do we deal with these differences of opinion. And this, of course, is one of the most important classes for young students of knowledge, because again, of course, they're going to come across differences from the different people that they learn from, and when they see these differences, it's important that they make sure they understand that these differences, either they're valid or they're invalid, and maybe they're strong differences or they're small differences, but to look at the root of them so that they know how not to how to deal with others in this matter, and not to go hardcore on anybody without without due right. And of course, students of knowledge should be very careful and be on the side of caution when it comes to these things. The next part, the next section that the author he goes into is talking about things of a supernatural, of a supernatural nature, or things that are extraordinary, and what is the belief of al-Sunnah wal-jamaa'ah in these things. And so the first thing that he brings up here is he says, wal-firasatu sadiqatu haqqun. And so he says, I translated the firasa here, which as supernatural, accurate discernment is a reality. So this is supernatural, accurate discernment is a reality. And sometimes we'll see this with people where they will have like a sixth sense about something, where maybe they're about to go travel somewhere. And before getting on the plane, they have this feeling, or something's just not right, and so they go back and they don't get on the plane, and then they listen to that plane later on the news crashed. And this is something that more than the amount of people that have had this type of instance where they've had a sixth sense about something, or whether they had this internal feeling about something just wasn't right. Maybe it was a certain individual that they were about to make a agreement with or something, or go into business or make a contract or something, and then later on before they do this, they just have this feeling that this is not right. And then they stay away from that, and then later they find out that this person was someone who was stealing money, or he was or he had something going on under behind the scenes that was very, very evil or something of this sort, and no one would have seen that on the outside. And this person, they trusted a sixth sense that they had, a discernment. And this is something that is that if someone was to go into the amount of people that have talked about this, there's no way to even comprehend the amount of stories that happen of this nature. And so this is something that al-Sunnah wal-jamaa'ah, they definitely affirm this, that there are certain things that people will encounter, or they'll have certain feelings or a certain sense about something, and this thing will be it can turn out to be true. And of course, this doesn't mean that someone's going to always have this. This is something that is not. It's not something that we can rely on in in every single state that we're in, and just say, okay, I have a sixth sense about this, and I don't. It's not something that's a supernatural ability somebody has, but it will be greater in some people than others. And in general, when we look at where do we get our information, we have certain information that comes from the brain, and just reasoning from one thing to another, and that type of information, such as we'd use that in math, and we also can use that with some things in logic and whatnot. And we also have information that comes from divine revelation, which is what we talk about in this chapter when we talked about the Quran, the Sunnah, and the revelation that came to the Prophet ﷺ, from the angel Jibreel coming to him and teaching him these things. And so this is one way we get information. And another way of information is just by trial and error. And this is something that we have trial and error, which is like the scientific method and whatnot. And then after that, we pretty much think that this is, or we know from trial and error, this is what happens after this. And we've gotten rid of all of the all of the possibilities, except that this is the only possibility left that could be the reason for something. So we associate that with that. But there's another way of getting information, which is like from ilham. And ilham is like inspiration, and that inspiration happens to all of the creation gets this inspiration. And for some beings, this ilham is something that is the most most powerful thing for them. So you have like certain you have birds that are born, they've never been to another place in their life, but they will have this instinct that takes them all the way to this place, just like all the other birds of their category. They go and and make a migration in the winter to somewhere and whatnot. They all come to this certain place. How do they know? And the same thing with like ants or bees and these different things. They have like this certain innate nature that they know where to get their food. And every single thing, Allah will guide all of the different creatures on the earth to go get their food and to go get their sustenance from the different creatures in the creation. And this is from the rahmah of Allah, that He makes sure that every single creation has been given a direction and guidance into where to get its sustenance and how to get it, and these things that are like in the innate nature of these animals. And so this is one way. Like in the animals themselves, they usually have a higher sense. Like if you were to have like a scale of these different things, did they have their trial and error? Their trial and error probably plays a role with them, as well as it plays a role with a lot of other things. You'll see that someone, okay, they ate this plant and then they got sick afterwards, and so they realize every time I see this plant and I eat it, then I'm going to be sick afterwards. So they might have this as well, but in general, animals and whatnot, they will have a higher like this ilham, which is kind of like that divine revelation to them, which Allah will give them guidance in certain aspects of their life, that we'll see that they'll be guided in their life in an uncanny way that we don't even understand how they figured out that food is going to be here, or where they're going to get this. And so it varies for every single individual, and this is something that also is a part of humans. Humans also have this sixth sense that will come to them and protect them from certain things, or it will guide them in certain areas, or it will affirm things that have come in the Quran and the Sunnah and whatnot. And of course, if something goes against the Quran and the Sunnah, or goes against one of these other things, we know that this is not something that is truth. Like if someone has a sense that something is wrong and it goes against what's clear in the Quran and the Sunnah, we don't take this into play here. But if this does come in areas that are like unknown and there's nothing clear about it, and sometimes there will be like a sense about something, this is something that really happens, and the al-Sunnah wal-jamaa'ah, they affirm this. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي مَنْ قَبْلَكُمْ, like there were people from the nations that were before you, muhaddathun, which means muhaddathun, which means like people that have been spoken to, or like had this kind of like this innate nature that was like revelation, or you wouldn't necessarily call it like a revelation, but like in a lesser sense we'd call it ilham, not wahi, but like that came to them. And he said, and if there was one in my ummah, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and if there was one in my ummah, it would be Omar, and radiallahu anhu, the Khalifa Omar. And so he says that there's some of these people who are muhaddath or muhaddathun, they were like spoken to, or like they were given that revelation. And Omar, in his life, we can see in particular, I'll go back to him, but in his life he would have many things that he would see beforehand, and he would be aware of it, and he would have a certain opinion about something that later he realized that this was really what Allah thought about the matter, and even the Prophet ﷺ received the wahi later that confirmed what Omar's opinion really was. And this happens in some of the ways, such as there were some of the captives that were taken. There's some of the captives from the Quraysh that were taken, and then they were trying to decide, the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr and Omar. They were talking about what do we do with these captives. And the Prophet ﷺ, he decided, him and Abu Bakr, they wanted to send to give ransom for these captives so that they can get like ransom from that and whatnot. And this, of course, is like that we would see the position of like rahmah and like of mercy, of giving mercy to these captives and then sending them back. And Omar, he had the opposite opinion, and he said, no. He's like, you shouldn't have these. Right now is the time for you to show your strength and not to take these captives, because this is like at the Battle of Badr. And so he had the opposite opinion. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he went with his ijtihad, and he went with his own ijtihad, and with what Abu Bakr also was of the opinion that they should give these out, and that they should release the prisoners for ransom. And so later Allah revealed that it was not, and this is not the time to show mercy for these people, but rather is the time for affirming the opinion of Umar radiallahu anhu in this. And also there's other ayats that have been revealed as well that like affirm what Omar originally had his sense about. And so this is something like Omar was definitely someone that had and definitely he was someone who was on the right track, and that he would have a certain discernment that was very, very keen. And of course, he still makes mistakes. This is not, no one has isma except for the Prophet ﷺ. And this is, it's not something that someone can rely on this as a, and we'll talk about this, they can't necessarily rely upon these things to use in like their, use in like making any rulings or coming to any like beliefs in a certain sense. But this is something that really happens, where someone will have a discernment about something that's uncanny, and they will act upon it, and then they'll find out that this was something that was right. And this is one of the things that al-Sunnah wal-jamaa'ah they affirm this. And of course there's many stories of this type of nature that are also like they can be found in like the biographies of the people that have passed and that have been in the past. And so the next thing, which is similar to this, that the author here he says, Hafidhullah, he says, وَالرُّؤْيَا الصَّالِحَةُ حَقٌّ. And so he says that, and also ru'ya. And ru'ya is like, in general, I translate it here as dreams, and dreams that come true are reality. And this is something that the Prophet ﷺ, before he received the revelation of like in Jibril coming to him, there was a long time when he had where he had in dreams that were there'd be a ru'ya salihah, which means that this dream comes into being. So this is a dream that he would see something in his dream, and then the next day it would happen just like he saw it. And so this was something that happened for a while before that. And this is also of the things that the Prophet ﷺ said, one part of like the nubuwah is like a ru'ya salihah. And this is the thing that we can see this, and it isn't, and yes, it is like it's very much so for like the anbiya, but this also can happen for some of the awliya. And the awliya are someone who is close to Allah, and the people that Allah loves, and these people that are, we'll talk about who they are in more detail in the rest of this class. But this is something that can happen for people, and it's something that is a reality, where some people will see things in their dream, and then it will happen as they saw it in their dream. This is something that al-Sunnah wal-jamaa'ah, we affirm that this is a reality. And the next thing of this, pointing to this, the author, he says, وَكُلُّ ذَلِكَ لَيْسَ مِن مَصَادِرِ التَّلَقِّي أَوِ التَّشْرِيعِ. And so he says, and all of this is not from the sources that we take the deen or make any rulings. And this is very key, because as we've been talking about this, there have been people that went overboard in this, where they would think that someone was they were getting ilham, or like this type of revelation all the time about this, that, and the other, and people went overboard with these things, and to a point where they were starting to use this as a way of getting information about the unseen, or about making new rulings about something, or to give some type of reward or punishment for doing something, which is like associating and that with this, when there's no evidence for that from the Quran and the Sunnah, or from Qiyas, and from some of the actual ways that we get our tashri', and they bring this in, and this happens with some of the Sufis and whatnot. They will fall into this kind of mysticism, which has no basis, and they will actually make it a basis in their deen, and they'll make it a basis of where they get this certain, whether it's, sometimes they'll have adhkar that comes to someone, that they say they had this adhkar, this special adhkar that came to someone in their dream, and if this person says it so many times, then there will be so many angels brought out and come into existence for this person and do this, that, and the other, and all these things. And this is something that this person, like, they had a dream and they saw, or maybe they had a dream and they heard this certain crazy adhkar that is not mentioned in the Quran, it's not mentioned in like any of the Sunnah and whatnot, but yet they have this new adhkar and they want to bring this to the people and their followers. They'll take this and think that it has all of these special characteristics. This is not something that we use to make any rulings about something, that this is not now mustahab before, and it has this special ruling of that. And this, like, part of this goes into claiming something of the unseen, or claiming some type of knowledge of the unseen, but this needs to be taken, it needs to be taken in its place. Like, yes, this is something that is true, but yes, it's but also it's not something that we take our deen from it. Like, this is, yes, it's something that Allah will give people at certain times, and we don't say that Allah doesn't do this, but at the same time we don't take this to make rulings for other people. So if somebody sees something in their dream, they don't use this thing in their dream to make something haram that was previously halal, and they don't make something halal that was previously haram. Just because they saw something in the dream, and maybe they think they saw the Prophet ﷺ tell them this, that, or the other, and so now they change something about a ruling in the religion, or they change something, or they add something to the religion because of this. This is not something that adds anything to the religion or takes something away. In some cases, there will be there are instances where there's certain mujtahideen, where, like, there's someone who is a sheikh and a scholar. They will look into a masala, and they will have and it will be like a really tricky issue that they're looking into, and maybe it's with a hadith, or if it's in a certain masala, and they will come to a certain conclusion, and then after they came to their conclusion with something that was like with the best of their ijtihad, looking at all of the texts and whatnot, when they come to this conclusion, they may some of them have had like dreams afterwards, where whether it's the Prophet ﷺ affirming it, or things of this sort, where they will have this, but this doesn't actually give the weight into that ruling. This is something that for them, it gives them some type of tuma'nina, and it gives their heart like some rest and ease in this particular thing that they went and did the work to come to this ruling. And then they see, like, the Prophet ﷺ will say something in affirmation, maybe in a dream and whatnot, or they have some type of other scenario where they have like some kind of reaffirmation in this. This is something that happens, but it's not something that actually gives weight. If you mention about this, like somebody had this ruling, and then this, that, and the other happened afterwards, they saw this in a dream, this isn't evidence that we say that this is the right opinion because he saw it in a dream afterwards. This doesn't play that role, because of course there's a couple things someone should take in mind if they have a dream. One is, if someone claims that they see the Prophet ﷺ, then their claim that they saw the Prophet ﷺ, it needs to be in alignment with the actual, like, sifat, like the attributes that the Prophet ﷺ actually had. So if they say they saw like a short man with a long white beard, and like some type of some red hair or something of this, like a reddish hair and whatnot, that said he was the Prophet ﷺ and told them this, that, and the other. Of course, this person doesn't fit the characteristics that we know about the Prophet ﷺ that are mentioned in certain books, such as like Shama'il al-Muhammadiyya or Shama'il al-Nabi ﷺ, that is written by Tirmidhi, where he brings the different characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ, that he was of medium height, and then he had like a dark hair, and that his beard was very dark, except for just a few white colored hairs that could be counted. And so like there are certain descriptions that we have of the Prophet ﷺ. So if somebody says I saw the Prophet ﷺ, and you could ask him like, what did he look like? And if he doesn't fit these conditions, we know that we didn't see the Prophet ﷺ in his dream. And even if he did see the Prophet ﷺ in his dream, we don't know that, or even if you saw someone that fits these descriptions, we don't know that this description was actually like that this was actually the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Man ra'ani fi manami faqad ra'ani," and so he says, whoever saw me in his dream, and this is he's speaking to the Sahaba, and he says he's seen me, because, and then he says, because the shaitan and can't take my form in a dream. And so this is something we know, that the Prophet ﷺ, he has this special characteristic where the shaitan can't take his form in any type of dream. So yes, shaitan will never take this, but the only people who actually knew the Prophet ﷺ and knew what he looked like were the Sahaba. So anyone that comes after that, even if they did fill all the conditions of the sifat and said that yes, they saw they had something that was similar to all of the characteristics that are mentioned in the authentic hadiths and whatnot, even that is not enough, because the shaitan could come with all of these characteristics in the dream, and he's still not the same. Like this could be a different person. How many people could fill these characteristics in this day and age? And they aren't, of course, they're not the Prophet ﷺ, but they would still, if you have these certain characteristics and people are like this, then shaitan could make a form like any one of them and then talk to somebody in that way. So of course we don't know, and we don't give like any jazm, like we don't say like that this person is absolutely sure that he saw the Prophet ﷺ in his dream. This is something we take it with kind of a grain of salt. And if this is something that the Prophet ﷺ comes to someone in a dream, we don't necessarily like say that this person's lying and whatnot, unless if their description of the Prophet ﷺ fits what we've had relayed to us authentically. If it fits with that, maybe. This is maybe, but if it doesn't go with that, okay, then this person is, they had someone else talking to them saying, I'm the Prophet ﷺ, that came to them in a dream. And so, of course, this is something that people have gone overboard in this way. And also some people, they've gone overboard in the other way, where they have said that there's no firasa, or there's no supernatural discernment or ilham that ever comes to people, and that there's no that the ru'ya, or something that someone sees in a dream, that is something that people don't see. And so, and also the miracles, they have the miracles for people other than the anbiya, such as the karamat. This is something that some people have said that this is not. This is something that doesn't happen, and this is the next thing we'll talk about. And but the people that denied this, they went against something that's very, very firmly established in the religion, and they went against this to close the door to the people that went overboard in Sufiya. And so the Sufis that went overboard, yes, they went overboard in this. And also, we don't go overboard till we say this doesn't exist. We say, yeah, it exists, but it's not a method of where we get our religion from. This is something that it's used as a supplementary affirmation for you. Okay, you got an affirmation from something, but this is not something that creates an actual ruling in that. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. And so and also how does somebody get this certain discernment and whatnot? The way that somebody can get it is, one is they have just a gift from Allah, that they would have more discernment in this in certain areas, and whether it's with people or whether it's with certain issues, they will have more discernment. And this is a gift that Allah gives for somebody. And also someone, they can practice it. Like with people, someone can practice with people to get to know, when they see a person that they've never seen before, is this person trustworthy or not? And over time, someone can see who is trustworthy and what, and they will have just a certain sense that they'll know that this is a trustworthy person. And if that person wasn't trustworthy, then their sixth sense will just go off. And this is something that over time they develop this. And there's also something that happens as well with someone like they would talk about like someone who is used to using like a money exchanger, or someone who can change. He knows what is fake money and what is real money. Like this is with the coins of silver and gold. So he'll know if one is mixed and one isn't mixed, and like no one can necessarily tell except that he's had so much experience. He doesn't even have to think. He would be sifting through it, and then he would see, oh, this is fake, or this is like mixed, and he would just be sifting through it. And it was something that like people would think like this guy, he has some special ability, but over time he developed that. And also some of the scholars of hadith, they will actually have an ability with this where they hear a certain hadith or they hear a certain chain and they'll know something's wrong with it. And if you ask other scholars that also have had a lot of experience in this, they'll know that there's something wrong with this. And maybe they explain it to you, maybe they don't, but they will know that there's an issue in this hadith. And this is something that also they have the scholars have pointed to. The scholars that have gotten into the ilal of hadith, they have like this uncanny sense of knowing that there's a ilal here and there, and it's something that the other people they wouldn't know how he got to this conclusion, but someone who is very but it's like confirmed that from all of them, all asking like a student came to one of them and asked them is about a hadith, and then he said there's a ilal in it. There's a problem in it. That's a problem. And then he said, go take this to a bunch of other people. Like go take this to this other major hadith scholar. And then he said there's a problem in it, and all of them said there's a problem in it. When like the apparent hadith, like looking at it, was something like what's wrong with it, and then they would all see that, and of course they could pull out the reasons why there's a problem, but maybe the person wouldn't understand it. This is something that can happen over time and practice. And also another way that this can happen is for someone to clean themselves, to clean their heart and their mind and whatnot. And this is something that like by cleaning themselves from like sinning and whatnot, that Allah would give them like a greater discernment when it comes to these matters. Wallahu ta'ala alam. And the next thing the author here he says is wal-karamatu li-awliya'illahi haqq. And so he says in karama is as I translated it here, was miracles. For the awliya is real. And I translate it as miracles. And miracles, there's multiple different words that come when it comes to things that are of a supernatural, like a supernatural nature that aren't normal, like you would not see normally. And of these words is karama. And usually karama is used for people that aren't anbiya. And people that are anbiya, they will have something that's called mu'jiza, which is the miracles for the anbiya. We would call that mu'jiza, which is something that is a proof, or ayah is probably a better word, which is like a proof that this person came from Allah, and he has a message from Allah, and that this is something that affirms that this message is true and from Allah, such as Musa alayhi salam, when he threw down his staff and it became a snake, and then it ate all the other like snakes from the sihr, or like the staffs of the people that were the magicians. They ate their staffs, and when they saw this, they knew that this was of a different type of their sihr. They knew what sihr was, and they knew how to make things, whether this is like some type of illusion that they created, or whether it's some type of thing with the jinn or whatever. But they knew when Musa threw down his staff that this is not sihr. Like this is something that, and they said, "Amantu bi Rabbil Alamin, Rabbi Musa Harun." And so like that, they knew that we believed. When they saw this, they fell on their face and said, "We believe in the Rabbil Alamin, Rabbi Musa, and like the Rabb of Musa and Harun." And so they believed in this because they saw this is of a different nature. And of course, like the ayats that come to the anbiya are not sihr. Like this is something that is different. Like sihr is like the magic that comes about, whether it's from doing deals with the shaitan, or that comes about like by tricking people or having some type of a thing of that sort. And this is something that is of a different nature than the ayat of Allah. The ayat that Allah gives His prophets, like these miracles, are of a totally different nature and reality of that. Because of course, like the staff of Musa wasn't an illusion when it changed into a snake and ate up all the other snakes. This is not an illusion, but rather this is something that they saw. It was real. There's nothing fake behind that. And so this is something that when it comes to the anbiya, we'd call it a mu'jiza or ayat. But when it comes to the someone who's not from the anbiya, we'd call it a karama, which is then this is something that Allah has given to many of the believers in different times and places for them to like affirm them in certain places of hardship, or maybe it will be something that someone experiences, like maybe someone goes out into the wilderness and they lose themselves, and then Allah will provide them food and water or something of this sort. And there's stories of people that have had certain things that have happened of this sort, and of them going back to Omar. One of the instances where something happened of this sort with Omar was while he was Khalifa. He had sent people off into war, and so when he sent these people off into war, all of a sudden, while he was on the minbar, he was like on the minbar, and he was like speaking. He saw something to him. He had some type of vision, and as I said, the ru'ya, it could be like a dream, but it could also be like a vision in real life, or like in waking life. But he saw something, that he saw that these people, the army that he sent, was about to get flanked from behind, and so he like screamed. He like screamed while he's on the pulpit, and these people are like miles and miles and miles away. He like screamed, "Behind you guys!" or get to the mountain that was behind you, or something of that sort. And so they actually, in reality, this was actually something that happened real time, where he said this, and these people, while they were there, they heard his voice. They heard his voice, and then they went back to the mountain. And this does not prove that he's a prophet or anything, but rather this was a miracle that Allah gave him. And when they came back, they affirmed that this has actually happened. And the people that saw Umar radiallahu anhu at that state, maybe they didn't understand right then, but when they saw all of this, they understand that this was something that Allah gave to Umar radiallahu anhu as a gift, and to protect the people that were in that battle and whatnot. And so this is something that happens for the awliya of Allah. And awliya, we'll talk about this, is someone that Allah loves, and that someone who loves Allah, and this comes from that close relationship with Allah. And then here, and coming into the next thing, is the author here, Hafidhullah, he says, وَأَفْضَلُ الْكَرَامَةِ الدَّوَامُ عَلَى الطَّاعَةِ وَالِاسْتِقَامَةِ. And so he says the best of this karama is being consistent in obedience and uprightness, and this is the best of them. And this is, of course, someone they want certain types of karama. They want to see like these miracles. Of the best of these miracles is someone who stands firm upon doing right. And this person he's always firm on doing right. This is something that is greater than any miracles. Maybe you have some guy that every once in a while he comes out with a apple. He's got some type of food here and there. You're like, where'd this come from? But how does this really benefit people? As opposed to someone who is constantly as opposed to someone who is very upright in his deen, and someone who is calling people to the truth. This person is doing much more good than someone who comes up with apples out of nowhere. And this sometimes the Sufis, they'll have somebody who they'll say that, oh, he's from the awliya, and of course like his deen is in destruction, and this guy comes up with with things out of nowhere or something, and they think this guy has karama, and this could be the shaitan playing with this guy, and using him as a tool to lead other people astray. And so the best of these karama is, of course, someone who is firm in their obedience to Allah, and in their uprightness in their deen. And the next thing the author here, he talks about is he says وخرق العادة لا يدل بمجرده على الولاية. And he says and something that is supernatural, like a supernatural occurrences, don't necessarily mean that it is from wilaya, which wilaya is that love for Allah, for someone, or that protection that Allah would give somebody. And this is very important for someone to realize, because just because somebody has supernatural things maybe that are around them, or they have like Sheikh so and so, he has this story and this story, and people saw him in a dream, and someone saw him flying here and there, and then he was talking to somebody that wasn't there, and all these different kind of crazy things. Even if we did prove that these really happened, this in and of itself doesn't prove that someone is a wali. And this is where the Sufis have they've taken this overboard in so many senses, where they will think that since somebody has had these supernatural occurrences happen to them, then they must be right, and this must be a wali, and he must be like almost infallible, and they will make him out to be infallible in some of these things, or he reached a certain level of yaqeen where everything that he does, he is doing it like Khadr or Khidr, where he had like this divine inspiration. He no longer was under the rules of the Sharia and whatnot. He could do whatever. And some of the stories that come in this are insane. Like of one of them that they mention is that one of the sheikhs, he got up in Juma while he was naked, and then he started praising Shaitan and saying something about Shaitan and saying Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, A'udhu Billah. And then after that, then they all started saying Kafir, Kafir, and like that this guy is disbelieved. And then he went down and started killing these people. And then the Sufis, out of their love for this person, they said they think that this person was doing something that was amazing, and this is from his karamat. And of course, like, this is someone who is disobeying Allah in the greatest way. He's committing kufr in front of the people and killing people, and yet these people, because they saw that they believed him in his karamat and whatnot, and they were following him, they said, oh, he's doing this from some reason that we don't understand, but rather like he's of the awliya of Allah. And this is like the actual, like, the proof is in the pudding, and this person's of the awliya of Shaitan, and that's like clear. And he did this for like a matter of times, like this particular individual. And in some of the stories that some of the Sufis will narrate from their sheikhs and whatnot, and they will actually, like, while they talk about this narration, they'll say radiyallahu anhu, and they'll like praise him after that, and they'll have like this great admiration for this person doing the worst of things, or like if he ever came across a prostitute in the street, he couldn't leave her, he had to do it, and like these terrible things. And they would say that this is from the karamat of Allah, because he saw qadr and these different things, like, and he went through this thing. And so this is of the just because some supernatural thing happens doesn't mean that this person is loved by Allah. And it could be something that Allah does for this person to throw them even deeper into their misguidance, like to misguide this person, or allow this to happen for him. And it could be a means of punishment for this person, because he tricks himself even further into the what he's doing in his misguidance, and to where he never is guided in this way. And this could be a punishment that Allah gives this person. And so we don't think just because something supernatural happens about something that this person is all of a sudden that they have this infallibility, or that they're loved by Allah, and this is because Allah loves them and whatnot. This could be something that Allah does just out of His goodness, or it could be something that Allah allows for like the shaitan. And of course, like sihr or anything that the jinn do, this is always with the permission of Allah. They can never do anything. They can never do any sihr except that it's from the permission of Allah. And as Allah says in Surah Al-Baqarah, and talking about sihr, and He says that they will never hurt somebody إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ, and they will never hurt any individual except with the permission of Allah. And this is something that the sihr only happens after Allah allows it to happen. And of course, Allah has allowed for things to happen that aren't necessarily good things, but for a greater good that Allah sees and knows what is best for all of us. And so this is a very key concept. And then he goes and talks about how does someone get wilaya. And he says, وَكُلُّ مُؤْمِنٍ وَلِيٌّ لِلرَّحْمَنِ بِقَدْرِ مَا فِيهِ مِن تَقْوَى وَإِيمَانٍ. And so he says, in every single mu'min, which is a believer, in every single mu'min is a wali, which is this someone who is loved by Allah, and that Allah loves, and that this person is close to Allah, as well as Allah is his protector. The word wali has many of these meanings involved in it, such as love is one of the meanings of wilaya, as well as protection, and like a whole and this is another meaning that can be held in the concept of wali. And so every single mu'min, and this is the key, every single mu'min is a wali to ar-Rahman, to the extent that he has taqwa and iman. And this is something that Allah brought up in the Quran. He said, "Allah inna awliya Allahi la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun." That Allah says, verily the awliya of Allah, and then they have no fear, like they will have no fear, like talking about in the last day, and they will not be sad, and وَلَهُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ, and that they won't be sad on that day. And then Allah gives the key for who is awliya, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. And so this is the biggest thing. Alladina, like the ones who had iman, amanu. And so this is the thing that according to their iman, this is what makes an awliya a wali. And like this is according to their amanu wa kanu yattaqun. And so it's not just the iman by itself, but it's also to the amount of taqwa that they have, that makes any individual a wali for Allah. And so of course, if we and may Allah make us of these, and this is of the beauty of every single person can attain like this wilaya by believing in Allah and having this iman and strengthening their iman with all of the things that are required of them, that is obligatory, and of the extra things of the mustahabbat, and staying away from the sins, and having this taqwa. This is something that makes someone a wali of Allah. And we don't necessarily claim that we don't necessarily say that this person is a wali in any in a specific sense, but in general, if this person was sincere in their obedience to Allah that we've seen, we can have a sense that this person is loved by Allah, if they are obedient to Allah. And of course, we don't see the insides of someone's niyyah, so we don't talk about what is unseen. But someone who is disobedient to Allah, and they aren't staying away from the prohibitions that Allah has prohibited, there's no way that this person can be a wali. So like this person who is going off his rocker, killing people, or committing zina with prostitutes and whatnot, there's no way this person's a wali. There's absolutely no way. And so this is something that we can use this as a judge to see who is totally off of this. Someone who is constantly committing big sins, and we don't see any taqwa in this person. He's constantly committing sins. He's not coming up with the obligatory things. He left salah from a long time ago, and like these people, in no way, shape, or form is this person a wali. And this is apparent because of their actions. Like they're constantly going against what Allah loves, and they're constantly leaving off what Allah commanded. We know that this person is not a wali. And if we, for our individual selves, we want to be a wali, then this is something. This is something that we can attain this, of course, with the permission of Allah, by increasing our iman, and by having that taqwa of Allah. And may Allah make us of those. And of course, of the benefits of wali is that the Prophet ﷺ, he narrates that that Allah said, whoever goes to whoever like goes to war with a wali of mine, which is for Allah, like any wali that if someone goes to war with one of the awliya of Allah, then Allah says, فَقَدْ آذَنْتُهُ بِحَرْبٍ, and that I have declared war against this person. And of course, like this is something that, of course, someone who is a wali of Allah, then this person, if anyone goes against him, he's going against someone that Allah loves, and that Allah will have this person's back, whether he sees it in this like dunya or not, in a certain like way. That's something else. But this is of the major things. We never know who the awliya are, and we would never want to ever hurt any of the awliya, because this is something that Allah loves these people. And so this is something to keep in mind, of course, when you're dealing with your other like your Muslim neighbors and whatnot, that you would never want to hurt somebody. And also be aware that this person could be a wali of Allah. This person with even if they seem like they just do like the normal ibadat, maybe their niyyah is something that makes them a wali of Allah. And so we should always be careful never to hurt someone in that way, and that would be someone that Allah loves. And of course, if we really love Allah, we love the people that Allah loves. And so the next thing that the author here goes into say, after we talked about the different things that are like kind of the supernatural phenomena and whatnot, and also the who is the wali, because the Sufis, they love to use this. They'll say that this person is a wali because of this supernatural thing that happens around them, or this type of miracle, and all these different things. And so then after that, they go to making this person like a guide, a spiritual guide for them, and giving them certain things in their religion, and they make them out into like a high status. And also sometimes they do what the author will talk about here. He says, وَلَا عِصْمَةَ لِلْمُكَاشَفَاتِ وَالْمُخَاطَبَاتِ أَنْ دُعِيَتْ وَنَحْوِهَا مِنَ الْأَحْوَالِ. And so he says that there's no isma, like there's no infallibility for things that have been revealed to people, or special revelations if claimed, or other things out of the ordinary. So there's no infallibility to these things. These are not something that we take with a knowledge that there's no way that this would ever be a mistake. No, but rather this is something that could be mistaken, and this is something that is not subject to us making a mistake in these things. But this is something at the same time, when we look at these different experiences, we can take something from it, such as like if we already have like a basis that I mentioned, like some of the scholars, they'll have a certain thing that they went to and they did their ijtihad in this issue, and then afterwards they had like a dream or something, or they had some type of kind of a crazy sign that happened in their life that kind of affirmed this thing. This is something that they don't take this as, this is not like infallible. They don't take this as like this is like tashri', but rather this is something that they can add to what they have already done in their work, and they can feel at ease with that. And so this is something that you can like feel at ease when something of this sort happens. But of course, it's not something that is infallible, and it's not something that absolutely is always going to be true, and that won't ever be mistaken and whatnot. And so, of course, this is something that is key for someone to understand. And the next thing that the author here he says, وَنَقْلُ مَصْدَرِيَّةِ التَّشْرِيعِ مِنَ الْوَحْيِ إِلَى الْهَوَاءِ مِنْ أَخْطَرِ مَنَاهِجِ الْبِدْعِ وَالْإِلْحَادِ. And so he says, in the changing the sources of legislation from revelation, wahi, to hawa, which is a desire, is of the most dangerous methodologies of bid'ah and going astray. And he says ilhad here, and ilhad in a general sense, in a linguistic sense, it refers to going astray, like going to the side, and that's why I translated it here. But it's also understood in like in a modern vernacular as like atheism. And so like atheism is like the greatest of going astray, which is usually they say an atheist is a mulhid, like someone who has this ilhad, which is like going astray. He went away from what was the truth, in like the greatest way of like saying that there's no God. And so he says this is of the worst methodologies of bid'ah and ilhad. And of course, this is something that happens when this can happen in multiple ways. And but one of the ways that this misguidance will come is, where do we get our information? And when somebody doesn't put, and they have a Quran and Sunnah that says one thing, and they have this all pointing to one thing, and then they come up with a dream and something else, and they put this aside. Like this shows, this is one of the things that really takes people far away from the guidance of Allah, and this is something that also will pull them to their own desire. And of course, someone who thinks that they're getting something revealed to them, or they think that Allah is speaking to them, or they think that that they have like angels coming to them and teaching them special things that nobody else has, like these things ultimately are the shaitan and the messing with them and leading them to follow their own desires. And whatever they desire, they will automatically have they'll have some confirmation for their own desires. And this is a road that knows no end when it comes down to people following their desires in this way. And this has happened with a lot of the Sufis. They will fall into this, and also some of the other people who are that are trying to secularize Islam. They will also fall into this issue where they will leave people, instead of pointing them to the Quran, the Sunnah, and following the truth. They will give them the option to follow their hawa. And so, of course, for a mufti, the one who's giving fatwa, for him, when he's giving fatwa, he should be actually pointing this person to what they should do. Like this is the idea of fatwa, is that this person comes to him, he wants to know the ruling that Allah has in this matter, and so this person who is giving the fatwa, he should point them to that ruling. And what we see with some of the people that are people that they make a serious mistake, whether they mean it or not. This is another issue, depending on the person, whether they're a person of serious misguidance. But they will open up a bag of goodies for the person. They say, you choose. They'll say, this scholar said this scholar said this scholar said this scholar said this. Go ahead. And this is something that this scholar who does this, if he's a scholar and whatnot, but they will do this, and they basically leave this person to choose the easiest thing that's on the table. And they have no discernment whether this is this or this is this. And this is something that I've seen this with some of the so-called scholars, that they're very knowledgeable about the differences in fiqh. They'll have this knowledge. They'll know that this is what the Shafi'is say, and this is what the Hanbali says, and they have multiple views in this version. And then there's also this, and this scholar says this and this, and then they'll just pick this, and they'll bring the strangest opinion that doesn't, in regard to the weight, it doesn't carry any weight compared to this, and this is the strongest opinion. But they'll bring this onto the table to the awam, to the people that they don't know the Sharia very well. He'll bring it onto the table like it's something you can choose. And as we talked about this in the last class, about the very strange opinions, we don't take these, and also we don't bring these strange opinions to the public. If someone is a student of knowledge, he shouldn't be bringing strange opinions to the public that are going to be seen as that are going to bring someone to follow their own hawa. And of course, someone who leads people to their hawa is someone who is leading people to their guidance. And when someone is giving or talking about rulings, they should always point people to the Quran and the Sunnah, and to the people that are trustworthy when they come out with certain rulings of this. And they shouldn't go into and they shouldn't leave people to their hawa. And this is of the most dangerous of things. And also this happens when it comes to the Sufiya. They will lead people. Of course, as I mentioned here, the supernatural things that they have, they will always affirm what their hawa wants. And this is something that's very very, very dangerous, and it opens up a whole bag of nonsense. And so the next thing the author here he talks about, he says, وَالتَّمَامُ الْفِقْهِ فِي الدِّينِ يَكُونُ بِالْعِلْمِ وَالْعَمَلِ مَعَهُ وبهما وبالصبر واليقين تنال الإمامة في الدين. And so he says here, and with the complete fiqh, he says the complete fiqh in the deen is by knowledge and action together. And so this is where someone, if they have that fiqh, and I didn't translate the word fiqh here, but it means that deep understanding. That deep understanding in the deen, and that deep knowledge is by having that ilm and amal, together, like having the ilm, which is the knowledge, and the amal, which is the action, putting these together. This is how the greatest understanding is occurred, or like it comes about in the deen. And so someone who wants to have that strong fiqh, and they want to have the understanding of the deen and that strong knowledge, they can't just go and open up books and read and not do anything with what they've read. But rather they need to put these together. And this is also something that a lot of the muhaddithin, they would say, they would, like the people who narrated hadiths, they had a practice that many of them would do, is they would never narrate a hadith that had a ruling in it, something, except that they practiced this in their own lives, even if it was only one time. So if they were narrating a hadith about like some of the ways the Prophet ﷺ prayed, they would make sure that they prayed with this. And this is one of the ways that it takes this hadith and it makes sure that they don't ever lose it. And this is of their keen looking to make sure that they put their knowledge with their action, and they put these two together, and this is the way that they have the strongest of this. And of course, someone who acts upon a certain hadith they always are keen to act upon this hadith is something that's going to be deep inside of them, as opposed to someone who memorized the hadith, they didn't act upon it, and then they left it. It's eventually going to leave them if they don't come back to it. But someone who acts upon this hadith and they take it into their life, and maybe it's an adhkar that was given from the Prophet ﷺ, and so they act with this adhkar that the Prophet ﷺ gave them, then this is something that will solidify this hadith in their heart and in their body and in their limbs. And this is something that is very good for someone. And this is the best understanding, comes with putting the action together with the knowledge. And then he also says, and with both of these, like action and knowledge, and with sabr. And this is having that patience, and also yaqeen, which is that certain understanding, like the absolute understanding. This is how someone comes about with imamah, which is like, we would call it leadership, but it's also someone that becomes an imam, like the becoming of an imam is, you would call it imamah. This is how someone accomplishes this state or this level in the religion. And so, of course, with all of these things, this is the way someone accomplishes this. In some of there's a balance that asSunnah has always taken in all matters. And one of the things that, like the Sufis, they went on one extreme where they would have people that claim to be an imam, like someone that should be followed. They'll claim to be someone that should be followed, and they'll have all these things, but yet they don't have the basics of their knowledge and acting upon the knowledge of the deen, as well as having patience with the things that will be followed from that, and also having that yaqeen in Allah and following that. And this is something, if they have this, then this is something asSunnah says, yes, this person can achieve a status of imam. Like he can be an imam, someone that is followed from the people that they look up to, and they can take knowledge of the religion from this person and whatnot. And this is where asSunnah, they say that this is something that can be accomplished, but it's in this particular way that is according to the Sharia. And then on the other side, some people will totally throw away all of these things, and they'll say that there's no imam or there's no wilaya, or they will throw away these terms altogether and not even use them or come towards them. And this is something that it's good for someone to realize. When we see someone who has gone astray, if they say something that's right, we don't throw away that thing that they said that's right. But if they said it in a wrong way, then we ask them about that. What did they mean by that? And then we use whatever that is. We affirm the truth that is with them. And this is something that Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he talks about in the way that he discusses with some of these issues that the Sufiya has fallen into. He'll ask them what they like. He goes things like, "What did you mean by this?" And he'll always have like a good thought about if someone said something or whatnot of their shuyukh. He'll try to interpret it in the best way, but he'll pull apart, what did you mean by this certain phrase? And then why did you mean from this? If you meant this, which is a good meaning, then we affirm this. This is something that is this is affirmed in the Quran, the Sunnah, and these are the evidences for it. And if you meant this, then this is something that shouldn't be used. But of course, this is the terminology should be something that is an association with the Quran, the Sunnah, and the terminology that comes from that. But this is something that Shaykh al-Islam, when he talks about these issues, he's very careful never to deny something that is true from what they have to say, because much of Sufiya, there will be deep understandings of the Sharia that they will come up with that they're in the Sharia, and then they will also have other things that they put around it that are not from the Sharia, and sometimes the wordings that they have will be really tricky, and so people won't necessarily be able to pull the truth out from the nonsense, or they will see the nonsense alongside the truth as they both are the same. And so the Shaykh al-Islam, he will affirm the truth that they bring, but he won't take the nonsense that's with it, or the thing, the batil that is alongside of this. And this is from his his equity when it comes to individuals and looking at those things. Also, the next thing I'm coming towards the end here is he says وَالِالْتِزَامُ بِمَنْهَجِ أَهْلِ السُّنَّةِ بِالْجُمْلَةِ وعند تقرير المسائل الإيمان خاصة يثمن صدق الانتساب إلى السلف ويوحد الصف ويجمع الكلمة ويكثر الصواب ويقلل الخطأ ويحقق التمكين ويحصل النجاة والفلاح في الدنيا والآخرة. And so he says here, coming towards the end, he says in compliance, or iltizam, which is compliance and also holding fast to something and making it a reality in that person's life, and holding to it and making sure he doesn't go outside of it. Iltizam, all of these words fall into that. And I translate it here as compliance to the manhaj, or path of al-Sunnah wal-jamaa'ah, or al-Sunnah in general, in a general sense, in whole. And with the details regarding matters of iman, especially when it comes to the details of iman, what is it and how does it grow and how does it go down? These things, when somebody looks into it deeply, this results in true ascribing to the Salaf. And this is, of course, many people, they'll say, I'm Salafi in this, but when you look at their actual, when you look to their iltizam, to the actual manhaj of the Salaf, you won't find this. In the way that they deal with other people, they don't deal with other people in the way that the Salaf actually dealt with other people these first 3 generations. And if you look at their actual, understanding of iman in and of itself, they don't actually apply this and hold to it. They will make these different things, but yet they still will try to say, I'm Salafi and this, that, and the other, and they'll go against this. But if someone really wants to have that real ascribing to the Salaf, then this comes when someone actually applies the actual meaning of the manhaj of al-Sunnah when it comes to, of course, when he talks about in a general sense, when it comes to their way in dealing that we've talked about in these first few chapters. And the next thing that we're going to talk about is the reality of iman, and we'll go into this. But when somebody actually puts this into their life and they apply this, this is when they can actually have that real ascribing to the Salaf and say, I'm Salafi, or in this way. And of course, we all hope that we have the manhaj of the Salaf in our lives, whether or not we say it in the actual words or we just put it into our action, and this is the most important thing. And also the thing he says after that, compliance to that manhaj also straightens the saf, yuwahhidu saf, which means that if you were to imagine that you have, this is a term that he uses in Arabic here, but if you have a row of people, and to make sure that it's all one row and they're all together in this issue, that's what he means by this. And he also brings together وَيَجْمَعُ الْكَلِمَةِ, and so it brings together people under a single banner. It brings together, I translate it in a rough way here, and brings together speech, but it brings together the people on the same page, they're all on the same thing and they're coming together in that same way. And it also increases correct views, وَيُكَثِّرُ الصَّوَابِ, and it makes sure that the correct view is much more than others, and وَيُقَلِّلُ الْخَطَأ, and it decreases mistakes, and وَيُحَقِّقُ التَّمْكِينَ, and it actualizes, yuhaqqiq means to actualize or bring something into existence, tamkeen, which is establishment, and it makes sure that someone is firmly established in the religion, or in the place that they're in their life, that they're established firmly in that, and brings about salvation and success in the dunya and the akhirah. And so this is something, of course, like holding to the manhaj of al-Sunnah wal-jamaa'ah, as we've mentioned in this, of where we get our religion and how we understand it, and understanding how we deal with people when there's differences, and also understanding how not to fall into like the traps of the shaitan when it comes to if you see things that are out of the ordinary for certain individuals and whatnot. Holding on to this is that way to salvation and success in the dunya and the akhirah. والله تعالى أعلم وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
فلذلك فادع واستقم كما أمرت ولا تتبع أهواءهم وقل آمنت بما أنزل الله من كتاب وأمرت لأعدل بينكم الله ربنا وربكم لنا أعمالنا ولكم أعمالكم لا حجة بيننا وبينكم الله يجمع بيننا وإليه المصير.